Clint Eastwood's longtime girlfriend, Christina Sandera, has died. She was 61 years old.
Fans around the world still admire Clint Eastwood for the unforgettable roles that shaped generations. From the silent gunslinger to the hard-edged detective, he was the face of quiet strength and unshakable grit. But behind those legendary eyes lies a life few truly know today. What happens when a man who once defined toughness begins to slow down? The truth may surprise you. Life after loss of a partner. The days have become quieter for Clint Eastwood. At 94, he's not just aging, he's adjusting to life without the woman who made growing older feel less lonely. Christina Sandera wasn't a celebrity or a fixture in the spotlight, but for Clint, she was the calm behind the camera, the steady presence who gave his later years meaning. They met in the most ordinary way, and maybe that's what made it so special. Back in 2014, Eastwood walked into his Mission Ranch Hotel in Carmel, California, a place he loved for its simplicity and quiet charm. Christina was working there as a hostess. She greeted him politely, not with starstruck eyes, but with calm warmth. Clint later told a friend, "She didn't care about who I was. She cared about how I was." That small moment led to dinner and then long walks, and slowly something grew between them, something steady, unflashy, and very real. Clint once quietly told a friend, "She made the end of the day feel like home." For nearly 10 years, they lived privately, away from the red carpets and press tours. They were seen together at a few premieres, but that was rare. Most evenings they stayed in, enjoying a simple routine, dinner at home, watching old films, taking walks around the Carmel property. Those little rituals, the everyday moments, are what Clint misses most now. "You think about the big things you'll miss when someone's gone," he reportedly told a close family member. "But it's really the little things that break your heart, like hearing her hum while she watered the garden." Christina died of a heart attack in July 2024. She was only 61. There was no warning, no long illness. One day she was there, smiling across the dinner table, and the next, the house felt too big, too still. Friends say Clint took the news hard. At that age, grief doesn't hit like a storm. It settles in like fog. "He's not the kind of man to cry in front of you," said a longtime colleague. But you could tell. His eyes, the way he walked. The spark was dimmer. Since her passing, Clint has stepped away from nearly everything public. He still wakes up early, still sticks to his long-practiced routines, green tea, meditation, a light breakfast. But something's different now. "He doesn't say much," said his son Scott Eastwood in a recent interview, "but I know he feels it. You can tell when someone's carrying something heavy, even if they're quiet about it." Scott says the family checks in more often, not out of worry, but just to be there. He's a tough guy, but no one's meant to be alone forever. Clint hasn't spoken much about Christina in public, and he probably never will. That was always their way, private, steady, real. But in a rare moment of openness to a friend, he said, "I was lucky to have her. I know not everyone gets that." Those close to him say he still keeps her picture by the bed. Her favorite mug is still in the kitchen. The small things stay, even when the person doesn't. Grief doesn't look the same for everyone. For Clint Eastwood, it looks like a man still walking the path he built for himself, just doing it more slowly, and without the woman who walked beside him for 10 years. He's not seeking sympathy. He's not making speeches. He's just living with the silence. "It's strange," a neighbor once noted. You don't hear laughter coming from the house anymore. Just the TV sometimes. And birds. He's spending more time alone now. Family visits when they can, especially Scott, who checks in often. But the house is different. It's not just the absence of Christina. It's the presence of her memory. He walks by the garden she loved and pauses, said a longtime friend. He doesn't say anything. He just stands there. Clint Eastwood was once known for his strength and tough image, but now even simple things like standing up or opening a jar have become difficult, which may surprise those who remember his powerful screen presence. The silent health battles. Clint Eastwood, the icon who once embodied raw strength and unshakable confidence, is now a man who faces the quiet battles of aging. At 94, the physical toll of time is unmistakable. Sources close to him have reported a noticeable decline in his health. Once a symbol of power, he has become frail, gaunt, and noticeably weakened by the ravages of time. His once muscular frame, hardened by decades of Hollywood roles and real-life challenges, now carries the weight of years and the invisible burden of grief. He's not the Clint we remember from the movies, a close friend confided. It's hard to see him like this. You can tell his body is just tired. One of the most noticeable changes is his posture. The iconic, strong posture that defined his tough guy image has been replaced with a pronounced hunchback. For a man who was once known for his physical strength, this shift is a stark reminder of the unrelenting passage of time. I saw him a few months ago, and he seemed so small, hunched over, said a neighbor who has known Clint for years. It was like he wasn't standing tall anymore, like the weight of everything had become too much. Reports suggest that Clint has struggled with a variety of health issues in recent years. His mobility is limited, and he now requires assistance when moving around his home. What was once second nature, the simple act of getting up, walking across a room, has become a challenge. Friends have noticed his once steadfast gait has slowed, his steps more uncertain. A longtime employee at his Mission Ranch Hotel recalled, "He used to walk with such purpose. Now, there's a weariness in his steps. He's careful, almost like he's measuring each movement." Health issues have been part of Clint's life for a while, but it's clear now that age is taking its toll in ways it never did before. There have been whispers over the years about his struggles with his knees and joints, and while he's kept it private, some say those ailments have gotten worse with time. He has reportedly been battling arthritis and joint pain, making movement difficult. But what's even harder to witness is the way his once strong frame has been stripped away, leaving him thinner and more fragile. "He used to be so solid," a friend said quietly. "Now, he looks so thin, almost like he's disappearing." Clint has always been a man of few words, but those who know him best say he has become even more reserved in recent months. "He's just not the same," said a family member. "He's quieter now. He doesn't reach out as much. I think he's dealing with it all in his own way, and it's really hard to watch." It's not that Clint has withdrawn from his loved ones, but it's clear that he's carrying this grief alone, quietly shouldering the pain of losing the one person who had become his constant companion. But even with that quiet strength, Clint's battles are more apparent now. The man who once embodied toughness, who made a career of playing strong, silent heroes, now faces the hardest battle of his life, one that doesn't have a script or a director to guide him. It's a battle with time, with his own body, and with the grief of losing someone who made life worth living. The legend of Clint Eastwood may remain strong in the minds of fans, but the man behind the icon is quietly slipping away, fighting a battle that he doesn't ask for sympathy for, but that he cannot escape. It's not just the physical decline, it's the mental and emotional weight of losing someone so deeply intertwined with his everyday life. No amount of fame or fortune can soften the pain of such a loss. Clint Eastwood, once the epitome of strength, now finds himself silently navigating the struggles of old age and the haunting absence of the woman he loved. As the days pass, he fights on, quietly, stoically, like the man he's always been, but it's clear that the battles he faces now are unlike anything he's ever had to fight before. Do you want to know how Clint Eastwood spends his days now? Let's take a glimpse into his quiet, routine life and discover what life looks like for a Hollywood legend in his 90s. Holding on to his routine. Clint's days start early, just like they always have. While the world around him has changed, his body slowing down, his life quieter, his discipline remains. It's not about staying fit for a film role or maintaining a public image. It's about keeping control over something in a world where so much feels uncertain. Clint has always been a creature of habit, and now more than ever, his routines offer a sense of stability. Despite his frailty, Clint's routine is a reflection of the resilience he's always known. He wakes up early each morning and sticks to a balanced diet. Salmon, brown rice, fresh vegetables, and fruits. Nothing fancy, but healthy and nourishing. It's a regimen he's followed for years, and it's part of how he maintains what little strength he still has. He's always been really disciplined about his food, said a longtime friend. Clint never got caught up in diets or fads. He just knew the importance of keeping it simple and staying healthy. Exercise, too, is part of his daily life. While he no longer participates in the physical demands of his earlier years, Clint still finds ways to stay active. Walking through his sprawling California property is a daily ritual. Though his pace is slower now, friends say he enjoys the peace of his walks, taking time to reflect and connect with nature. He also finds time for golfing, a sport that has remained a constant in his life. Clint's love for golf isn't about competition. It's about the quiet challenge it presents. He's never been about winning on the course. For Clint, it's always been about getting outside, moving, and clearing his head, said a golfing buddy who has played with Clint for years. But perhaps one of the most significant aspects of Clint's routine is his commitment to transcendental meditation, a practice he has followed for over 40 years. He was first introduced to meditation in the 1970s, long before it became a popular wellness trend. For Clint, meditation has always been more than a tool for relaxation. It's a way to maintain mental clarity and manage stress. Even now, with his life more subdued and reflective, meditation remains a constant part of his routine. Clint is one of the calmest people I've ever met, said a former colleague. It's like he's found a way to center himself and stay focused, no matter what's going on around him. I think meditation has played a huge role in that. The quiet discipline that Clint adheres to each day might seem mundane to some, but for him, it's a lifeline. He may not be the strong, silent figure he once was, but in sticking to his routine, Clint Eastwood proves that resilience doesn't always come in grand gestures. Sometimes, it's in the simple act of waking up, eating well, getting outside for a walk, and taking time to clear the mind. And in doing so, Clint holds on to what he can. The steadiness of life, the habits that have helped him weather every storm. As Clint continues to age, his routine has become even more important. It's a reminder that even in the face of loss, even when everything around him is shifting, some things can remain constant. And in that quiet constancy, Clint finds a sense of peace, a strength that's less about his body and more about his spirit. Through the years, the routines he's held on to have been his source of stability. And as he faces his most difficult chapter yet, those routines offer a glimpse of the quiet resilience that still defines him. Clint Eastwood may be slowing down physically, but his passion for storytelling is far from fading. Let's tell you how this 94-year-old legend is still shaping Hollywood with his latest directorial efforts. The Final Frame. Clint Eastwood, the legendary director and actor, is known for his unyielding work ethic and unwavering commitment to his craft. Even as he enters his 90s, he continues to push boundaries, directing films that speak to the soul. His latest effort, Juror Number 2, is no exception. However, the journey of this film has been far from typical, reflecting not only the evolution of Eastwood's career, but also the shifting dynamics of Hollywood and the film industry at large. Released in 2024, Juror Number 2 was met with an unusual release strategy. Warner Brothers, the studio behind the film, decided on a limited theatrical release in the US that raised eyebrows. Traditionally, films by a director of Clint's stature would be celebrated with a grand premiere and a full, wide release. But instead, Juror Number 2 had a quiet opening, and Warner Brothers opted not to report box office figures, leaving many to question the studio's commitment to Eastwood's vision. This release felt different, said a film industry analyst who has been tracking Clint Eastwood's career for decades. For someone like Clint, you expect a big splash, but instead, the film was released quietly, almost like they weren't sure what to do with it. It's a strange move for a director with Eastwood's legacy. The lack of reported box office figures for Juror Number 2 further deepened the mystery. For a director whose films have traditionally been box office draws, such as American Sniper or $1 Million Baby, this was an odd departure. The decision not to publicize the numbers could suggest a lack of confidence from the studio, or perhaps a sign of shifting priorities in Hollywood, where streaming has become more central to how films are consumed. Those close to Clint have noted that while he has always been fiercely independent, the dynamics of Hollywood today are challenging even for someone with his stature. Clint's not someone who makes movies for the money or the fame anymore, said a former colleague who has worked with Clint on several films. But even he has to wonder what's going on when a film that he poured his heart into doesn't get the kind of support he's used to. The film, a suspenseful legal thriller, showcases Clint's trademark directorial style, economical in its storytelling and rich in emotional depth. The plot revolves around a juror who discovers that he may have accidentally caused the death of a defendant, leading him to grapple with his moral dilemma. It's a movie that, in many ways, encapsulates Clint's long-standing interest in justice, personal responsibility, and human fallibility. Despite the limited theatrical run, Juror Number 2 has already garnered attention for its thematic depth and Clint's directorial vision. Critics have praised the film for its sharp dialogue and the way it tackles issues of conscience and guilt. Clint has always been a director who knows how to get to the heart of human emotion, said a film critic who reviewed the film. Juror Number 2 is no different. It's the kind of film that makes you think long after it's over. However, the film's reception and its release strategy have also sparked conversations about the future of Clint Eastwood's career. At 94, it's impossible to ignore the fact that Clint is in the twilight of his career. Hollywood, too, is undergoing its own transformation. Streaming platforms have become the dominant force in the industry, changing how films are made, released, and consumed. It's a shift that's left even the most seasoned veterans like Clint wondering where they fit in. The industry has changed so much, said a longtime friend of Clint's. When he started, the movie business was a different animal. Theaters were everything. Now, streaming is the king. Clint is someone who's always adapted, but it's hard to navigate this new world when you've spent your whole life doing things one way. Some have speculated that Warner Brothers may have seen Juror Number 2 as a test case, using Clint's latest project as a way to gauge audience interest in a more limited theatrical release before transitioning to streaming. With so many studios focusing on direct-to-streaming releases these days, the decision to push Juror Number 2 onto a streaming platform earlier than expected seems to be a sign of the times. But what does this mean for Clint's legacy? For Clint, it's clear that his passion for filmmaking remains undiminished. "He still has that fire," said a member of the crew who worked on Juror Number 2. "He doesn't slow down. He's in the middle of it all, on set, every day, making sure everything's perfect. It's not about money or awards for him. He just loves making movies." As Clint's career continues to evolve, so too does his approach to filmmaking. While some may see the unconventional release of Juror Number 2 as a sign of Hollywood's changing priorities, Clint himself is focused on something much simpler: telling stories that matter. "Clint is someone who's never been swayed by trends," said another source who has known Clint for years. "He does what he does because it speaks to him. Whether people see it in theaters or on their couch at home, that's secondary to the fact that he's still making films that resonate with people." While the fate of Juror Number 2 remains uncertain in terms of box office performance, one thing is clear: Clint Eastwood's legacy is secure. His latest project, regardless of how it is released, adds another chapter to a remarkable career that has spanned nearly half a century. Clint may not be making the same kind of splash at the box office as he did in his prime, but he is still making the kind of films that make people think, feel, and question. And that, in itself, is a testament to his enduring impact on cinema. Let's look at the quiet strength of the family that never left his side. And who still stands beside Clint Eastwood when the cameras stop rolling and the lights go dim? Family by his side. While the world remembers Clint as a rugged cowboy or a sharp-eyed detective, his children see him in a far more human light. They see a father, a man who once seemed invincible, now walking slower, speaking more softly, and leaning on those he once raised. Clint Eastwood has 8 children, each from different relationships across the decades. His eldest daughter, Laurie Murray, was born in 1954, though he was unaware of her existence for many years. She was adopted at birth, and their connection came later in life, forming quietly but deeply. In 1964, Kimber was born, his daughter with Roxanne Tunis. Then came Kyle in 1968, and Allison in 1972, from his first marriage to Maggie Johnson. As his film career grew, so did his family. In the late 1980s, Scott and Catherine were born to Jocelyn Reeves, a former flight attendant. Francesca, his daughter with actress Frances Fisher, arrived in 1993. The youngest, Morgan, was born in 1996 during his second marriage to news anchor Dina Ruiz. Each child grew up under different circumstances, shaped by Clint's evolving career and personal life. Some spent more time in the public eye, others were shielded from it. His relationship with each has not always been smooth or traditional. For many years, Clint was a busy man, known more for being on location than at home. Long hours on set and a fiercely private nature meant he wasn't always emotionally available. But age has a way of softening even the toughest among us. Today, Clint's children are a central part of his life. They visit often, especially since the death of his longtime partner, Christina Sandera. Her sudden passing from a heart attack left a silence that even the strongest heart would struggle to fill. Clint now walks through that silence with the support of his kids. They have become more than family. They are his lifeline. Scott Eastwood, now a successful actor in his own right, has spoken about his father's strength. "He's a trooper," Scott said in an interview. "He's doing good." But he also hinted at the quiet struggles Clint faces daily. His father, once a towering figure of American cinema, now shows signs of physical decline. He has grown thinner, his back hunched from years of work and age. Even small steps take effort. Yet he continues, one day at a time, holding on to the comfort of familiar faces. The Eastwood home in Carmel has become a place of soft moments. Family dinners, shared walks, old movies playing in the background. The laughter of grandchildren echoes through the hallways, offering reminders of joy. Clint's daughter Allison once shared that her father had a soft heart underneath all that toughness. Now, that softness shows more clearly. He tells stories more often. He listens longer. He pauses to hold a hand or share a look that speaks more than words. One family friend revealed that the Eastwood children are more present than ever. They check in regularly. Some stay with him for extended visits. It is not about caretaking. It is about being there. A presence, a warm cup of tea, a shared memory. The act of sitting together in silence without needing to fill the air with noise. Clint Eastwood may no longer stand as tall, but his emotional strength still runs deep. That strength, however, is now rooted not in bravado or film roles, but in the people who surround him. He has learned to accept love in its quietest form, through a child's arm linked through his own, a meal cooked with care, a story retold not for fame, but for connection. In the end, family remains. Through loss, through aging, through change, they stand beside him. Not for the man the world sees, but for the father they know. You might be surprised to know that these days, Clint Eastwood spends long hours in quiet reflection, revisiting the memories and choices that shaped his extraordinary life. Would you like to know what he's thinking about now? Reflections in the quiet. Clint Eastwood, now 94, no longer chases film sets or battles imaginary foes on screen. Instead, his days are filled with something far more delicate: silence. And in that silence, reflection. The man who once commanded attention with a squint and a whisper now spends much of his time sitting alone, quietly revisiting the chapters of a long and complicated life. His home in Carmel, California, nestled between the ocean and rolling hills, has become a kind of sanctuary where memory gently rises and falls, like the tide outside his window. His son, Scott Eastwood, recently said in an interview, "He's a trooper, he's doing good." But anyone who has seen Clint lately knows there's more to the story. His body has grown frail, his posture curved with age. He walks slowly, carefully. His voice has softened, and his once piercing gaze now carries something gentler, more reflective. Still, he insists on being independent. He spends mornings near the window, sipping tea, watching the trees move in the breeze and thinking, not just about the fame or the films, but about the things that mattered in between. Clint's reflections are not always easy. He has made mistakes, and he knows it. His relationships, especially with the mothers of his children, were often strained. He worked too much. He didn't always say the right things, but time has given him perspective. Those regrets live beside the pride he feels for his children. He remembers watching them grow, sometimes from afar, and he treasures their closeness now. You don't always know what's important when you're young, he told a close friend recently. You think it's the next job or the next challenge, but it's the people. It's always the people. In this season of life, Eastwood has grown more open. He speaks less about work and more about emotion, about how his mother raised him during the Great Depression, how he struggled with the idea of fame, and how he found calm in nature. His daily walks, though shorter now, are often quiet meditations. He notices things others might ignore: a fallen leaf, a bird call, the way sunlight hits an old photograph. These small details, once passed over during the rush of life, have become precious. He has also found peace in revisiting his own work, not in the way fans do, watching for entertainment, but as a man who lived those stories. Sometimes he will watch a scene from Unforgiven or $1 Million Baby, and it will bring back not just the memory of the film, but where he was in life during those moments. The laughter on set, the creative frustration, the quiet satisfaction when a shot came together just right. They are not just films to him, they are markers of time. Clint's reflections are not about seeking applause or rewriting history. They are about understanding, about letting go of certain regrets, and holding on to moments that mattered. Friends say he often writes down his thoughts now, short notes or quotes that speak to him. They are kept in a drawer by his bedside, not for a memoir or publication, but for himself. A way to hold on, a way to make sense of things. Though his physical strength may have faded, the strength of his mind, his memories, and his emotions has only deepened. He has come to value the quiet not as emptiness but as space. Space to remember. Space to feel. Space to be. In the end, Clint Eastwood is not just a movie legend or a cultural icon. He is a man facing the same truths we all must eventually face: the loss of love, the weight of memory, the slowing of time. But in that quiet, he has found something lasting. A place to sit with his past. A place to feel his life in full. And that, perhaps, is the truest kind of peace. What do you think about Clint Eastwood's life and the quiet strength he carries today? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to click on the cards on screen to explore more powerful stories like this one.